You owe me this for dealing with Mom all these years. That was the text I saw just moments before my entire bank account vanished. $185,000 gone, the money meant for my daughter Rebecca's leg surgery. My own brother had taken it, crossing the line from entitlement into betrayal. In that instant, the protective sister disappeared, replaced by a forensic auditor ready to trace every digital footprint. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to realize the truth could hurt this badly? For years, the story in my family was painfully simple. I left, Travis stayed. I moved 3 hours away to chase a career, to build a life, and suddenly I was a selfish one. He was a saint living rent-free in our mother's basement, supposedly caring for her. And that was the trap of normalized cruelty, where your success is twisted into guilt and forgiveness is measured in dollars. Financial abuse doesn't start with theft. It starts with a story and narrative that convinces you your existence is a burden and that paying for it is the only way to survive in your family. I added Travis as an authorized user, not because I was naive, but because I was exhausted. Exhausted from apologizing for being alive, exhausted from the quiet manipulations, the veiled accusations that my career, my life, somehow made me a bad sister. I remember the exact day. 4 years ago, right after the car accident that crushed my legs, I lay in a hospital bed, painkillers clouding my thoughts, terrified that I might lose everything. Travis stood at the foot of the bed, his focus not on me, not on the fear etched into my expression, but on his truck, broken, unable to get our mother to appointments. "I can't carry everything alone, Julia," he said, eyes on my cast as if my pain were an inconvenience. "You have the fancy job, I have the burden." That day, I allowed myself to believe that by granting him access, by covering gas and groceries, I could buy a little peace, a little silence. Emergencies became a currency, a twisted accounting of guilt. A bar tab on a Friday night, a new gaming console, a truck lease more expensive than my first car. I watched the charges accumulate, and for years, I let them slide. I drove a 10-year-old sedan, living in a rental with questionable plumbing, while he cruised in luxury, paid for by my overtime. I thought I was helping him get on his feet, being a good sister. But in reality, I was paying a monthly subscription to be tolerated, to earn permission to exist without judgment. It took staring at that zero balance, the aftermath of his ultimate betrayal, to realize that none of it was about helping anyone. It was about his entitlement and my exhaustion, the price I paid simply for being alive in my family's eyes. I stared at my phone, my eyes locked on the screen that read $0, $185,000 gone in seconds. My stomach dropped, a hollow emptiness filling every corner of me. This wasn't just savings. It was Rebecca's surgery money, the only thing standing between her and a lifetime of pain. For the first time, the role of the helpless, supportive sister evaporated. In its place, I became something else, a forensic auditor trained to follow money, to uncover the truth hidden in digital shadows. I closed the banking app and opened my laptop, my fingers trembling slightly, then steadying as focus sharpened. The metadata awaited a map written in lines of code and timestamps, and I knew exactly where to start. I pulled up the transaction logs, tracing the money's path. It didn't go straight into a personal account. That would have been too obvious. Instead, it hopped through a labyrinth of digital pathways, each one designed to look legitimate, each one hiding the truth. My training kicked in eyes, scanning routing numbers, cross-referencing account names, and suddenly, One name leapt out at me: Obsidian Ventures, LLC. Something about it clicked a memory buried in my work files. I ran a search and my heart sank. Federal databases flagged it a known shell company used for laundering money tied to an online gambling ring in Eastern Europe. This wasn't just a theft. My brother had wired Rebecca's surgery money into the hands of criminals operating across continents. My pulse quickened as the pieces fell into place. Federal wire fraud, money laundering conspiracy. What started as a family betrayal had escalated into a serious crime, and I was the first line of detection. I leaned back, the glow of the screen illuminating the dark kitchen, my mind racing. Travis wasn't just a thief. He was a liability, a man who'd unknowingly placed himself in the crosshairs of international law. I opened GPS data comparing timestamps and locations, and the picture became even more damning. The day he claimed to be taking Mom to the doctor, his phone pinged from a cell tower near a casino. He hadn't been with Mom. He'd been gambling, oblivious to the fact that I was mapping his every move. The realization hit me in waves. This was no ordinary family theft. This was calculated reckless, and it would require the full measure of my skills to untangle. And I was ready. A soft noise behind me drew my attention, and there she was. Rebecca standing in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Her pajamas were oversized, yet her eyes were wide alert and terrifyingly clear. She asked in a quiet, steady voice, "Did he take it?" Not with fear, not with confusion, but with the clarity of someone who understood the weight of what had been stolen. I wanted to shield her, to fabricate a story, to tell her it was a mistake, something fixable with a phone call. But the truth sat heavy between us, and I knew she needed to see it as it was. Yes, I admitted, my voice steady, because hiding the truth had only delayed the inevitable. She nodded in understanding, far beyond her 10 years, settling across her features. Then she said it, a statement that cut through the silence. "Then we take him down." It wasn't a question, it wasn't hesitation. It was a directive, a commitment. In that instant, something shifted. We weren't victims waiting for someone else to fix the chaos. We were partners. Strategists, hunters. I looked at her, realizing that her innocence had been stripped away too soon, but what replaced it was focus, resolve, and the unspoken promise that we would act together. She knew where he hid his passwords, where his missteps could be exploited, and she was ready to help. For the first time that night, I smiled at her, a dark, knowing smile. We were no longer alone in this. We weren't simply surviving anymore. We were planning, calculating, preparing to reclaim what was rightfully ours, and the hunt was just beginning. I dove into the digital trail with the precision of a professional who had spent years hunting financial criminals, but never imagined using these skills against family. I opened the cloud dashboard, scrolling through message archives. Travis had deleted threads, but the recently deleted folder held a hidden gem. I restored the conversation, and my stomach sank as the text populated, "It's done. Fully paid up. We're going to Cabo first class." There it was, the confirmation that this wasn't desperation or necessity. It was entitlement, indulgence, vacation money at the expense of a 10-year-old surgery. Every message, every timestamp was a piece of a puzzle I could assemble. Next, I cross-referenced his GPS data. The afternoon, he claimed to be taking Mom to a cardiology appointment. His phone pinged repeatedly from the Lucky 7 casino on the state border. He hadn't been with her at all. He'd been gambling, probably squandering the last of his own money before finally targeting mine. I screenshot everything, dragged files into a new folder labeled Evidence, and meticulously annotated each piece. Bank logs, metadata, shell company profiles, chat threads, GPS maps, each one a thread in a net designed to show not just that the money was gone, but that he acted with full awareness and intent. In federal law, intent is everything. A simple misunderstanding can be defended. Deliberate action with digital footprints left behind becomes undeniable. The evidence was crystalline. He didn't steal to pay a debt to save our mother or to cover an emergency. He stole for himself to fund luxuries, vacations, and parties, proving the calculated, selfish nature of his choices. As I assembled each screenshot, each trace of metadata, I felt the fog of frustration lift. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was constructing a case. Every detail, every corroborated fact was a step toward accountability, toward legal recourse. This wasn't family drama, it was a federal violation, and my role had shifted completely. I wasn't merely a wronged sister. I was a strategist preparing to use the very system he sought to exploit. The digital breadcrumbs he had carelessly left behind were now guiding me, each one lighting the path toward justice. Every click, every restore, every cross-reference brought clarity, transforming chaos into actionable intelligence, and confirming that intent was clear, undeniable, and ready to be presented to the authorities. With all the evidence compiled, it was time to act. I opened my secure work portal, the one that provided direct access to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. In my line of work, this isn't a routine tool. It's a direct channel to freeze suspect transactions flagged for international money laundering or connections to shell entities. I typed in the transaction ID, highlighted Obsidian Ventures as a recipient, and hit submit. It felt like triggering a precision strike. Within minutes, the automated federal systems reacted. Accounts didn't just freeze, they froze comprehensively. Travis's personal checking his savings, the shell account, every digital pathway he had used, turned to ice. He wasn't going anywhere, and his plans for a lavish Cabo vacation evaporated before he could even realize it. I watched the system's response with calm satisfaction, the same meticulous focus I applied to every financial investigation I had ever undertaken. Outside, the night was quiet, but inside, tension coiled like a spring. I knew the bait was set, and the next step required patience. Moments later, headlights swept across the driveway. Travis's truck rolled to a stop, the engine's hum, a deceptive prelude to chaos. I glanced at Rebecca. She sat nearby, her tablet illuminating her determined face. She understood the plan, the stakes, and the discipline required. I took a deep breath, turned off the porch light, and waited. When the door burst open, his fury filled the house, echoing like gunshots. "Open the door, Julia, stop hiding and give me my money." His voice wasn't just for me, it was performance, a desperate attempt to claim victimhood in the eyes of neighbors who might be listening. I walked calmly toward the door, every step measured, projecting the composure of someone who had anticipated every move. Rebecca rose, positioning herself strategically, ready to witness and assist if necessary. I opened the door, and Travis pushed in his face, flushed sweat glistening even in the cold. Behind him, Nicole hovered anxious and silent. He spun toward me, screaming for answers, demanding immediate restitution. I held the folder labeled Suspicious Activity Report, the Treasury seal visible evidence of the federal freeze. My voice was steady even as he tried to intimidate and manipulate, claiming I needed to authorize the transfer, claiming it was a mistake. I didn't waver. I explained precisely and calmly that the moment he routed $185,000 through a flagged shell company, he had triggered a federal response. The money was tagged, accounts were frozen, and the law was now fully aware. His face changed from anger to shock, disbelief etching every line. The automated systems had done their work. I didn't need to raise my voice. The freeze, the red and blue lights of enforcement flooding the driveway, and the undeniable documentation did all the talking. The trap had been executed perfectly, strategically, silently, and completely. Travis's illusion of control had crumbled before he even realized the scope of what he had walked into. And I remained calm, poised a narrator and strategist in one, letting the systems and the evidence do what they were designed to do while I prepared for the final confrontation. Travis's anger escalated quickly, his voice cracking as he demanded, pleaded, and threatened all at once. "Fix it, call the bank, tell them it was authorized." He shouted, his finger shaking as if pointing could coerce the impossible. I stood my ground, calm and measured, projecting the voice of the sister he once thought submissive. "I didn't call anyone," I said, steadily, showing him the suspicious activity report in my hands, the treasury seal stark under the kitchen light. He staggered back, disbelief and panic mixing on his face, and in a last desperate bid tried to claim he acted for Mom, for Rebecca, for family. I stepped closer, unwavering. "You're not a hero," I said. "You're a thief who stole from a disabled child." The words landed like stones, heavy and undeniable. Then the sound of engines, the low rumble of authority echoed through the quiet street. Blue and red lights flooded the driveway as federal agents arrived, precise and commanding. Travis's eyes widened, his arrogance stripped away in an instant. He spun, realizing the magnitude of what he had triggered, the law now firmly on the scene. Handcuffs clicked, securing his wrists, and he was led out, screaming my name, screaming for a negotiation that no longer existed. Nicole's face was pale anxiety etched across her features, and she quickly agreed to a deal before the engines even started. I watched calm and observant as my brother, the man who had believed himself untouchable, was escorted to justice. The stolen funds, the $185,000 that had been Rebecca's lifeline, were secured and returned. I glanced at Rebecca standing nearby her tablet, still in hand, wide-eyed, but steady. "Is he gone?" she asked softly, almost whispering. "Yes," I said, relief and triumph threading through my words. She breathed out the tension leaving her tiny shoulders, and I saw the faintest victorious smile cross her face. In that moment, the weight of years of betrayal, manipulation, and entitlement lifted. Justice had been served not through rage, but through methodical action, patience, and the unwavering commitment to protect what mattered most. We watched the street, quiet once more, the chaos fading into the night, and for the first time I felt a profound sense of peace. The money was safe, Rebecca's surgery secured, and the lesson was clear. Sometimes protecting your family requires standing firm, using every tool at your disposal, and never underestimating the power of preparation and resolve. In the aftermath, Travis received 15 years, the stolen money returned, and Rebecca now runs without pain, her surgery a success. I often think about the brother I imagined, not the man who betrayed us, and the quiet strength it took to protect our future. Family trust and vigilance are priceless lessons I won't forget. Sometimes survival means making impossible choices. If this story resonated with you, consider showing support. Every like and subscription helps share tales of courage, justice, and resilience.